Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Stately Office Hours. This is where us, the team at Stately, give you updates on what we've been working on with the Stately Studio and with XState. I'll start the week as we do every office hours with introductions from the team. So I'm Laura. I do advocacy and stuff for Stately. Farzad?
I'm Fireside, the real CEO of XState. I had this joke on, but I'm kidding. I'm just an engineer.
No, just about it. Next up, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm also doing engineering at Stately.
And Nick.
And I'm Nick, and I do product design here at Stately.
And Anders.
I'm Anders, and I do engineering at Stately.
And last but absolutely not least, we wouldn't be here without him, David.
Hey, I'm David, and I do a lot of things at Stately. I'm the founder of Stately, creator of XState, etc.
And I thought it would be nice to start off this office hours by talking about the events that we were at recently. So, David, I say events. It was one very big event that David and Jenny were at, which was Agent Conf. So you gave a talk about AI, did you?
Yeah. So the premise of the talk was actually just how useful modeling your application logic as a directed graph can be, which if you're using state machines, you're no stranger to the concept. So I gave a talk on relating that to a topic in machine learning called reinforcement learning, because it turns out that if you could model your environment as a state machine, you get some really cool features out of that, which actually improves on the existing state of the art in reinforcement learning, because you could essentially use planning algorithms, planning optimization algorithms to basically find the shortest path from one state to another state. And so that state might be your goal state. For example, I gave an example in this where we had a sample feedback form, and I put in natural language like send feedback that the conference was great, but the food was terrible. I actually, like, Copilot said the food was terrible. I had to explain that in the conference. It wasn't me. I thought the food was okay. And so what it did was it opened the feedback form in the sample app I had, and it figured out all of the steps necessary to fill out the form and submit it, which it ended up, it's a multi-step form, so it ended up being multiple steps. And so I was sort of peering into the future of this is what applications can be like. If they all ran using these state machine models, then we could essentially just tell the app what we want to do, and it will figure out the best way to get that done. Instead of you having to memorize UIs or click around things or deal with errors, etc. So I thought it was an exciting talk. But even more exciting after my talk was Jenny's talk, where she talked about state machines and the brain. So just mental hacks for improving your mental state. So she largely talked about just the core parts of state machines: initial states, transitions, actions, etc. And she also talked about burnout. And it was really cool because she was using the Stately editor, demonstrating I guess, her mind, and also things like sleep schedules, which, by the way, is a really, really great example of compound states, the sleep cycle, because you have NREM and REM. She explains it better than I do. But yeah, it was a really interesting talk, and I really recommend once those videos come out, because I do believe they're recorded, that you check it out.
Oh, as soon as they come out, I'll be watching them, that's for sure. They sounded really good. You got loads of really great feedback from in the room. And I'll make sure that I post them on our various social media platforms. That would be Twitter, LinkedIn, Mastodon. So you'll be able to find them there as well. Great. Another thing that we've been trying out this week, which we mentioned in our last office hours, is that you can now sign up to get a demo with the Stately team. And we've had quite a few people doing that. And we've already had a couple of demos this week, which Kevin and David, you were in. Anyone else? I think you two were definitely in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And how did they go? Was it interesting? Did you learn anything? Or did they learn anything new?
Yeah, so we showed off a lot of studio features, and we also learned how they were using XState. And so these teams are using XState in really, really interesting ways, where it's not just a sprinkling, but it is part of the core app logic, where I think the last team we talked to had between 30 and 50 state machines inside their application. And one of the most common feedback that we've learned is that they really want to use these tools to make it easier to talk with the rest of the team, whether they're developers or non-developers, which really speaks to our mission. So yeah, just a lot of exciting stuff.
And you don't already have to be using XState or the studio if you want to get a demo from us. If you just send us a little message and let us know what you think you might want to use it for. Or you don't even have to do that, and we will give you a demo of some of the things that are possible, and then we'll talk to you about how you can use Stately and XState with your team as well. You don't have to already be familiar. But if you've got a juicy problem you want solving, we've certainly got the team for that as well.
That's right.
Speaking of number of machines, like up to 50 machines is very impressive. Kevin and I discovered this week that we ourselves, the Stately team, are using 52 machines in the Stately studio, inside of the studio, that we imported into the studio. And that is a feature that, Anders, you can tell us about now. If that wasn't too abstract.
Good.
That's the wrong one.
So yeah, let me try and share my screen.
There we go.
Thanks. So almost a month ago to this date, we shared that you can now import machines directly from GitHub, and we have a blog post about it where you can read in detail. But the quick demo of that is you go to GitHub, you find any file containing a machine, and the only thing you have to do is double-click .com in the URL, and you just type stately.ai. And everything just kind of magically works, and you get the machine from that file available inside the studio. And now you can save it so you can continue working on it later on. But we've also done a more soft release we haven't talked about yet, which is this import from GitHub button that lives under my projects. And if you click that button, we're going to actually fetch all your GitHub repositories. And now you get all the repos you have access to, and you can search here. So like you mentioned, the studio, we can try and see, okay, how many machines could there possibly be in the studio? So what's happening right now is it's actually fetching that entire repository, downloading it, and then scanning all files, looking for machines. And this works for public or private repositories. The requirement is that you have a pro subscription in the studio to use this. But yeah, after it's done its magic, you can see this is now a project called Studio, just took the name from that GitHub repo, and all the machines are inside this studio from this repository. So that's the gist of this feature. We have many more GitHub integration features planned, but this is like the initial run. We are doing imports.
Kevin and I have been having a lot of fun looking through the machines that are already in the studio. And for the GitHub integration to work, do you have to be logged in with a GitHub account, or when you go to import, will that be sorted out for you?
It'll ask you along the way to install our GitHub application. So if you don't already have it, you'll be helped to install it along the way.
That's good to know, because I already log in using GitHub, so I wasn't exactly sure how to do it. Eric asks, is the URL rewriting trick, so the previous way to import from GitHub by hacking the URL, does that work with both public and private repos?
It does. It works for everything you have access to.
Fabulous. That's really easy. That's going to make it really easy for people to bring their existing code into the studio and play with it.
Yeah, hopefully. And let us know how you find it. If you want any more features, if there's, just help us make it better.
So Anders, For right now, sorry, just wanted to ask. Right now, that's going to pull from your default branch in the repo. Is that right?
Yeah, if you import the entire repository, it's going to pull the default branch. But when you open the file, you can go to any file on any branch and you'll import that. But you're right, that could be something we might want to add, that you can import the entire repo of any branch. There's nothing stopping us from doing it other than we have to show the option to pick a branch to the user.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was something that Kevin and I discussed the other day, wasn't it, Kevin? Like, we thought, oh, it'd be pretty cool to be able to pull it from your dev branch or another branch that you're working in before you've merged it into whatever your default branch is.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think it already looks really cool, but can't wait for the writing back to GitHub to work.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could consider
amazing.
this a beta feature. There's a lot of things that we're planning on adding to it, including like, I guess, that bidirectional, you could edit it in the studio and then make a pull request in GitHub, or even have a PR bot or a GitHub bot just tell you, hey, here's the machine. You could link to it in the studio and maybe even show a diff in the future.
Yeah, Kevin and I were talking about the possibility that you could even end up using the studio as another way of interacting with your repo using Git. It would be really cool if you could just make those changes and then commit them directly into your repo using the studio. So there's some ideas for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a huge amount that's going on in the studio at the moment. The reason why we're not showing you any more work in progress or any more demos specific to the studio right now is because we have a couple of absolutely massive features that are coming very soon. We're just polishing up on the final details of those. And we promise as soon as we can share them with you, we will be doing so. There's also been a lot of small improvements in the studio. I had a look through the releases, and there are a lot of very small little changes that you might not notice unless you're looking out for them, but small improvements to the UI, little things that will just make the user experience a bit better and everything flow. So while we're also building big features, we're also fixing bugs and making a lot of small improvements as we go. David, shall we have a little update on V5 and you can tell us about a couple of the cool things in there?
Yeah, sure. So we've been really, really hard at work at in V5. And so two of the things that are currently in progress, which I consider really huge features, are things that are currently in PR right now. The first one is XState V5 input. So just to explain the general problem, and I'm going to be doing this all in VS Code, let's say that you have a machine, like const user machine equals create machine. And basically inside your context, you want to get the user name. So right now I'm just hard coding this to David or blah, whoever names their kid blah. There you go. But here's the problem. Let's say that you want to start this machine with a specific kind of context. Right now, there's unfortunately two ways of doing this. You could say, for example, let's say const actor equals interpret user machine dot with context, and then you could pass in the context that way. Or I guess an easier way is you could create a factory function. So you could just say user and then create machine and the name. This might be user.name. And so you could say, well, let's call this create user machine. And then this would be interpret, create user machine with name David dot start. And okay, that works fine. The problem is that, now this is inside of a function, and it's actually really easy. I ran into this problem even today to reference this instead of a value in the context. So you might get stale values, but also this is just sort of, it feels like you're escaping XState. And so if you want to just stay within the machine, in V5, there's going to be a better way. And so that is called, going to get rid of all this. That's called input. And so here's what that's going to look like. Let's say we have const machine equals create machine. And the context, you could, In version 4, you could already provide what's called a lazy context, which is a function that returns that context object. But now in version 5, the first argument to that, you're going to be able to get input. So let's say that this is name input.user.name. And now we could actually just create that actor. Const actor equals interpret machine. And then in this second argument to interpret, you provide the input over here. So this might be user name David. Thanks, Copilot. By the way, Copilot knows a lot of XState, so it's very, very helpful. And let's get the snapshot of this just to take a look. Equals actor.getSnapshot. Okay, so I'm actually going to test this out real quick just to show you what ends up happening. All right, so whoops, I went a little too far there. Why can't I? There we go. Why is it doing that? Okay, trying again. All right, cool. So the snapshot over here is going to be, if I could hover over this, you'll see that we have context, name, David. So what's happening behind the scenes is that the input event, or the initializing event, actually has that input as part of the event, which really opens up the possibilities to things that you could do there. And so this is going to be the much, much better way of providing initial data to a machine instead of having to do a factory and instead of having to do with context, because it actually keeps that context stuff as an implementation specific detail so that you don't have to know, oh, what's the name of the context value or the context property that I have to pass in, etc. So that is input. And actually, I could extend this and just show persistence, unless there's
Just
any
a quick question, David. Sorry for interrupting you. The input is not going to be reactive, right?
Right. So the input is not reactive. We're still thinking about ways to introduce quote unquote reactive values. Everything with state machines and the actor model does rely on events. So at the very best, we could have some sort of implicit events that notify you that, hey, something changed. But input, this is just for, as the name implies, what you're inputting to the machine. So this is also going to be very useful in backend workflows, because typically with a workflow, you would initialize a workflow with some data to kick it off, such as a trigger of some sort. And then it would take that data and then run through the steps and eventually maybe output a value. So this provides a first-class pattern to that. And also, because it's part of the machine definition, we could actually visualize this and make this part of the editor as well. Whereas with a factory function, we can't do that.
Yeah, so you could think of it as providing a sort of a schema of dependencies to the machine.
Yeah, essentially. And so, in the future, you could also say, schema input, and then you could just specify this is what my input should look like inside of the schema.
Joseph says, input looks useful as hell. Could I also use it to add services and actions to a machine?
So for services, actions, and other implementations, that's done a little bit differently. So that is going to be using provide. And so this is another difference with V5. Instead of with config or with context, etc., the name is changed to provide. And so you'd be able to do the same things that you could do with config, which is providing actions or actors or guards, delays, etc. Not services. Bad Copilot. It's now going to be renamed to actors, just to simplify terminology. So that's how you would do that.
Fabulous. And we'll have some docs up for this very soon. We've actually been playing around with some ways for doing versioning in the docs, and so you'll be able to have a look at like V4 versus V5 and check out how they vary and work towards when V5 is released.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to use the same example and talk about another PR that's coming up too, which is recursive persistence. And I know that that's a mouthful, but bear with me. So let's say that in this machine, I have count 0. By the way, I'm not 42 years old. I don't know why I can't but let's just put count 0. And let's also create a child machine over here. So const child machine equals create machine. And actually, I'm going to open up the visual editor just because I like doing it better here. Let's call this, idle, and then on activate, active. Okay, that was a lot easier than coding it out. Sorry. But yeah, so there's my child machine. So we start in idle, on activate, go to active. Again, I really hate, and I'm sure you do too, I really hate typing these squigglies. So opening the editor is just really nice for doing that. But now that I have my machine, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to actually invoke it. And so you could probably see, hopefully, where I'm going with this. But the original problem in v4 that this solves is that when you invoke this child machine, and let's say that you're doing stuff to the machine, you're sending events, and child machines and even deeper invoked machines, promises, other actors are changing states. When you try to persist that state and then restore it, it's not going to be recursive. It's only going to restore the top level machine. And so let's actually add a transition over here. So we are, let's call this press button. And so this press button is going to do a couple things. First of all, we're going to increment the count, thanks Copilot. And we're also going to send to our child an event of type activate. So again, what's going to happen is that when we press the button, this count is going to go from 0 to 1, but we're also changing the state of this child machine in here because we're sending activate, and that's going to transition it from idle to active. And so we basically want to see all of that. So I know this is a big demo, but thanks for bearing with me. And hopefully it works. We'll see. So now let's make an actor, or actually we already have the actor. So, we're starting the actor. And so before we get a snapshot, actually, let's get rid of this. We are going to send type press button. And again, this is going to change the state both of the parent actor and of the child actor over here. So we're going to get the persisted state, and that's going to be via actor.get persisted state, which is sort of like get snapshot, but it's giving you a representation of the internal state. And you could customize this behavior so that you're not leaking any state that you don't want to leak. But this is a state that's necessary to restore the machine to whatever state that you persisted it at. And so I'm going to make a new actor. Actor2 equals interpret. And we're giving it the same machine, which right now, just to prove this to you, we're not starting at the persisted state. Const snapshot equals actor2.get snapshot. And I'm going to show you what happens normally. So obviously, this is not going to use the persisted state. So when we run this and we get to the snapshot, did it go? Let's see. It just stopped. So I'm not sure why it's doing that. Sorry about that. Come on, demigods. Okay, it is input.user.name. Oh, yeah. So forgot to add that. So just input user name. Let's leave it again. Yeah, so it was failing silently. All right. So now when we look at the original snapshot, this is going to start at the very beginning. So we're going to see that we have count is 0. And then in our children, for the child actor, we're going to see that this is actually still in the idle state. So let's change this. We have our input, which actually doesn't matter because we're going to be using the persisted state. So I'm going to say state, persisted state. Then let's run this again. So now, hopefully, if everything works, you're going to see that context, we have count 1. So we are persisting the original state, or the change state. And then this is the key part. Inside of our children actor, we're going to see that the value is active. So it is restarting even deep child and nested machines and other actors at the state that they were persisted at. And this could go recursively deep. So that is recursive persistence.
I need a confetti button in our streaming setup here. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It really is. And as Scott brought up, when is V5 going to be released? Do we have any rough timeline ideas?
Yeah, so V5 Alpha has actually been out since last year. And so what we are doing is as we merge these PRs in, it's going to bump up the version of Alpha. So you are going to be able to play around with this immediately whenever we release Alpha versions. So with that said, and Mateusz isn't here, but I'll just say it anyway. We are hopefully planning on releasing a beta version by the end of this month. We have now a finite set of things to do before we get to beta, and the end is in sight. So yeah, the answer is immediately, and when the beta comes out.
Immediately, as in end of the month, not as in today, right now.
Yeah, well, you could play with V5 Alpha immediately. It's not going to have these features yet, but once they're merged in, you could just install XState at Alpha and play around with them.
Fabulous. Yeah, well, we will make sure we make a lot of noise about it when V5 is released into beta as well, so that you're all aware of it. So another thing that we wanted to talk about this week is we're going to start doing fireside chats. Fireside, what are these fireside chats going to be?
I don't know. What do you want them to be? I think it's basically just a really, really warm, literally like a fireside chat where we sit next to like a I don't know what you call that in English, but whatever, you get it. Yeah, so it's going to be really, really friendly. Okay, that was a joke. It's like a welcoming, friendly, and like informal technical discussion. And I think Stately people are going to be there to answer any questions. It's like a live FAQ or Ask Me Anything sessions, where you get to ask us anything in terms of the product, the roadmap, the features, anything but XState v5, because if I'm there, I can't answer that. We need Mateusz. Yeah,
and so
you get to ask us anything.
Would this be a good time if people are having issues with their particular use cases or their code bases for them to come ask for advice?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Anything goes, basically. There is no strict format. And if you don't have enough questions, we can probably live code or live model something in the studio together. I don't know. Anything goes, really.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Well, and our first one is going to be next Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So that is US Eastern time. And I think we're not quite at the point where the US and European time zones go out of sync. So hopefully that shouldn't be too confusing for next week.
That might be a little late for European people, but we might be able to do something earlier for EU-based people later on.
That's why it's a fireside chat, because it's all cozy and late night for us Europeans.
No free beer, though.
It'd be very difficult unless we posted them out ahead of time.
Yeah.
You can have a virtual beer. We'll make you all the beer emoji you would like. Did anyone else on the team have anything that you wanted to share this week?
I just want to say I'm looking forward to the fireside chat, because I think it's going to be an opportunity to to meet some of the folks in the community, such as yourselves, and to put some faces to names, and that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. And we've been talking with a lot of you so far, just either one-on-one or with your teams, and so it would be nice to just get a bunch of people from the community together and just talk about us, the future of XState or the future of Stately. There's a lot of really, really good ideas. So, yeah.
Well, hey, folks, if you're interested in actually being live on the stream with us, if you want to let us know ahead of time, we can always send you a link and you can join us in the studio. You can share your screen, share your code, and talk to us live like that. That'd be good fun.
Yeah.
Great. So I also wanted to add, if you want to sign up for our email newsletter, now you would be forgiven if you didn't realize we had an email newsletter, because we don't often mention it very often. But you can sign up for that on our homepage, at stately.ai, or at our docs at stately.ai/docs. And we will be having some new email newsletters coming out soon. Not too many, just enough, not too often, but we want to start letting you know about new features that have been released and all of the important details that you might have missed if you're not on social media, or if you're not in our Discord, or you don't get to join our office hours very often. And that will be the ultimate way to make sure that you find out about everything that has been going on with the Stately Studio. So if you want to be first to know, make sure you sign up. Well, and that should be it for now then. I think we thought it was going to be a short one, but it's ended up being a nice long one. So it was really great. Thanks everyone for joining us. We really appreciate having you here in the comments and asking us questions and giving us feedback. That's why we do these. Thank you very much, team. And we will see you all in 3 weeks' time. Not 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because 2 weeks is St. Patrick's Day. And so I shall be dancing around with Irish people. We'll see you all then.
See you.
Bye-bye.